And in our time together, I'm hopeful that you will walk away with a thorough understanding about lifestyle medicine and also some tips and tricks that will help you lead a healthier and happier life now. I'm on the scientific advisory board for Jenny Craig and the medical advisory board for Obvious Solutions. And I've got my own private practice in lifestyle medicine and wellness coaching. These are my disclosures to share before we launch into the lecture and we reach our 3 goals: to discuss the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, highlight the role of each pillar for a healthy body and mind, and identify actionable tips for incorporating more exercise, improved nutrition, stress resiliency, sound sleep, and social connection into our daily lives. First question you may have is, what is lifestyle medicine? So I'm going to refer to the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. This is the website, www.lifestylemedicine.org, for ACLM, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And as Angie said, I am honored and delighted to be voted into the presidency. I will be president-elect in October. Lifestyle medicine is the use of a whole food, plant-predominant dietary lifestyle, regular physical activity, restorative sleep, stress management, avoidance of risky substances, and positive social connection as a primary therapeutic modality for the treatment and reversal of chronic disease. Lifestyle medicine really got its traction back in the early 2000s, so about 20 years ago. Mockdad and colleagues, they reported in a prestigious medical journal called the Journal of the American Medical Association about behaviors that underlie disease. We know that we're dying from heart disease, cancer, stroke, chronic lower respiratory disease, all those factors that are indicated on the left-hand side of your screen, leading causes of death in the US. This is also worldwide: heart disease, #1, cancer, stroke. This is in 2000. It hasn't much changed. It's been this way for quite some time. The interesting thing about this article and why it has put lifestyle medicine on the map is because of what we see on the right-hand side in red. The actual causes of death. So these are the leading causes of death, the diseases. But the question Mockdad and his fellow researchers investigated was, what behaviors are contributing to these diseases? #1, tobacco. Probably doesn't surprise you at all. #2, close behind tobacco, poor diet and physical inactivity as the actual causes of death. Alcohol consumption, and then the list goes on. Lifestyle medicine uses evidence, uses the research to create guidelines to help people on their journey to optimal health and wellness. If you're interested in the data, we'll be covering some of it today, but I've got a lot of it in this free resource called the Lifestyle Medicine Course Syllabus. You can download this at the website for the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. There's also a handbook, which I have co-authored back in 2018 called the Lifestyle Medicine Handbook. And every chapter has charts, research charts in it where the data is listed. You can go back to the primary source, the primary research, and review it if you'd like. Today, we are going to be going through a lot of the research, not all of it, but if you wanted more information, you have this handy Lifestyle Medicine Handbook. I get no proceeds from this, the sales of this book. Mine go to the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. I'm just here to share the information. I'm passionate about lifestyle medicine and its 6 pillars: exercise, nutrition, sleep, social connection, stress resiliency, and then substance use elimination or moderation. I showed you some data that put lifestyle medicine on the map. and has helped us move forward in terms of even becoming a subspecialty in medicine. We now have a board of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And this is held nationally in the US and various states. It's also held internationally. So if people are interested, you can look at the online courses available at the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and there's also some live courses available there too. I've spent a significant amount of my career in this arena, really starting in 2008. Why am I so passionate about this? It's not just the statistics and the research. It really comes down to patients. Most of us have been impacted, influenced by particular people in our lives, and many physicians can recall a patient or two that really changed the way they viewed medicine and the world. I want to share with you one such patient who has given me all the rights to share his story. In this photograph, he is 72 years old, and I'm going to take you back to a time when he was 52, so 20 years before this photograph. At that time, he was an overweight, overworked, overstressed New York City businessman who walked fast, talked fast, and ate fast. He dined almost exclusively on fast food, anything he could consume really quickly and get quickly. So something on the corner of the streets of New York, hot dogs, hamburgers, pretzels, McDonald's, Burger King, whatever was on the corner, so he could eat it and be walking and talking. He didn't sleep much at all. He would stay in the office quite late at night and perhaps get home around 11:30 or midnight, eat cakes, cookies, chips, go to his room, try to sleep a little bit, write notes about everything that needed to get done the next day for his business. He ran his own business. His father had started it. It was on Park Avenue, and he was determined to make it a success again for the next generation. He would get up at 6 a.m. and take the first train back into the office. In terms of social connection, the third pillar of lifestyle medicine, he was married and had children, teenagers at this time, and a loving wife, but he wasn't fully present. He was always thinking about work. Of course, they loved him and he loved them, but he wasn't really present. Those connections weren't deep. In terms of stress, there was a lot of it. He stress ate, yelled, got angry. There was not a lot of stress resiliency, mindfulness, meditation at all. Pretty much stress eating was the way he managed his worries and anxiety and challenges. For substances, he didn't take any, didn't drink alcohol or smoke at all. And then let's get to exercise. Despite the fact that he was an outstanding high school athlete, he was a basketball player, baseball player, very fit and very athletic. At this time in his life, 52 years old, he was sedentary, didn't really do anything, spent most of his waking hours sitting. And well, that's actually not entirely true. There's one thing that he did do. It was sporadic, but it happened at the same time. When he would do it, whatever day it would be at the same time each day. Actually, it was night. It was happening at 11:07 p.m. That's when he would engage in this physical activity, the only exercise the gentleman ever did. You might be wondering what that is. I mean, what could this New York City businessman be doing at 11:07 p.m.? Well, he was sprinting, mad dashes, sprinting as fast as he could to the train station, because he knew exactly how long it took for him to run from Park Avenue to Grand Central Station and make it on the last train home. On one of these journeys, these sprints, these mad dashes, he experienced a little pressure in his left upper chest. No pain, no gain. He forged forward, made the train. By the end of the train ride, he felt as if there were an elephant resting on his chest. The pain was so severe. He had numbness and tingling down his left arm into his fingers. He was all sweaty, call it diaphoretic. He was pale. He was short of breath. When his dutiful, loving wife picked him up at the train station, as she always did, she took one look at him. She was a teacher. She had no experience in medicine, but one look at was all it took to know that this gentleman needed to go straight to the emergency room, which is where she drove him. And he completed his massive myocardial infarction, heart attack, and subsequent middle cerebral artery infarct, stroke, leaving him paralyzed on his left side. So that was the day in the life of this New York City businessman. At the age of 52, everything changed. I'm happy to tell you that he made a complete recovery after 1 year of physical medicine and rehabilitation, working with physical therapists, occupational therapists, and he made a complete lifestyle change. So he went to intensive lifestyle medicine programs in California and in Florida, Pritikin programs and Whitaker programs, where he learned about healthy eating. Vegetables were the main food on his plate, whole grains, and some fish. He stopped all those sweets and cookies and cakes and candies that he used to love so much. In fact, he used to have hard candies in his middle drawer at work that he would snack on all throughout the day. But all that stopped, and he was having fruit and berries for dessert. Then for exercise, he got a stationary bicycle. And he would be on that 5 days a week for 1/2 hour religiously, and loved it. In terms of stress resiliency, he learned about deep breathing and taking walks. Walking was a form of meditation for him and stress reduction. In terms of his social connections, I can speak to this quite deeply because it's time to share that that's my dad. So I was 18 when that happened. And it changed my world pretty much as it changed his. So Dad got a lot deeper, and he was present, fully present when he was with us. I remember so vividly Dad coming into the kitchen and coming behind my mom, giving her a peck on the cheek from behind. And that was the first time I'd actually ever seen him kiss my mom ever. And he got closer to my brother. It was just the four of us. And his friends. In terms of work and his life balance, he was not going in at 6 and coming home at 11:30 anymore. He was going in at 10 and coming home at 3 and having meals with the family. Interestingly, at that time, this was in 1986, I mentioned to you the 6th pillar of substance use, and he wasn't drinking at all. At that time, the recommendation from the American Heart Association was to consume wine. So he started drinking 1 glass of wine a night due to that recommendation. And since that time, 18, I have been passionate about lifestyle and health and wellness and stress reduction, eating healthy, exercising. I will also share that this is an exercise ball. And it is my office desk. I do not have hard candies in the middle drawer here at my office desk, as my dad did. I actually have apple and walnuts. I do need to tell you, Dad passed away at the age of 79, but he's still a huge inspiration for me and many others. And I have been on top of this research since the age of 18. So now I'd love to try something with you that will share the guidelines of lifestyle medicine and also be a little active. You may participate if you'd like or not. It's an invitation and it's your choice. We're going to do a little poll. Now, if you'd like, you can stand up. I'm going to stand. Let's see how this works here. All right. So you can start by standing. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask a series of questions all around lifestyle medicine, the guidelines for each pillar. If you can answer yes to the question that I pose, then you remain standing. If you answer no, then you can go back to your chair. This is your choice. It's all up to you. But by the way, it's good to take breaks from sitting every half hour, at least every hour. Okay, let's start with exercise and the guidelines around that and the recommendations. Please remain standing if you are accumulating 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity each week. Moderate intensity means when you're doing it, you can talk, but you cannot sing. If you can't talk and can't sing, you're at vigorous. We just need to be doing moderate, 150 minutes. Okay, if you can do that and you're doing that, then please remain standing. The other part of this guideline is to do strength training twice a week. So if you are strength training twice a week, please remain standing. Go to the next pillar, nutrition. If you are consuming 5 servings of vegetables or more per day, please remain standing. Sleep. If you are sleeping 7 to 9 hours, somewhere between there, between 7 and 9 hours, please remain standing. Stress management. I'm guessing most of you have this one down, but this is the guideline. If you have a go-to stress resiliency technique that you can use in the moment, something very stressful happens, and you have a technique that you are comfortable with and you know will help calm your system so you can avoid an amygdala flare or the fight or flight response, and you can remain in rest and digest parasympathetic system during a stressful situation or crisis, then remain standing. In terms of social connections, if you can say that you can identify one charismatic adult in your life, please remain standing. You're probably saying, what's a charismatic adult? Good question. Charismatic adult is someone from whom you gather strength. So it's your go-to. When you have a problem, when you feel uncomfortable, you feel some anxiety, some worry, some tension, you have someone you can go to and you feel energized, loved, understood. It's a charismatic adult. Julius Siegel coined that term. And then one of my mentors here at Harvard, Bob Brooks, he has carried that term forward. He's about 78 or so now, Dr. Brooks, and I'm a little younger, and I'm going to carry the term forward as well. Second part of that question is, are you a charismatic adult for someone else? If so, remain standing. Last pillar, substance use. If you are drinking nothing, no drinking at all, remain standing. If you are a woman and you're only drinking 1 drink per day, per 24-hour period, remain standing. Or if you're a gentleman and you are drinking only 2 drinks or less per day or 24-hour period, remain standing. So these are the guidelines and the overall approach to the pillars for lifestyle medicine. Now let's get into each one a little bit so you can understand. For exercise, if I asked you, what benefits do you get from exercising? You're likely going to say, it's going to help my heart, it's going to lower my blood pressure, it's going to help me with my blood sugars, it's going to help my mood, it's going to help me reduce stress. All these are true and amazing benefits. One thing, though, that we don't often talk about with exercise is its impact on the brain. We have an obesity epidemic, a diabetes epidemic, and quite frankly, our third is a dementia epidemic in the US. And this is becoming worldwide, all three as well. So I'd like to share with you something physicians are surprised to learn when I give this talk. And that is that routine exercise can, in fact, change your brain, specifically your hippocampus, deep within your brain in the limbic system. You can actually increase the volume of your hippocampus through routine exercise. MRI studies tell us this. Why is the hippocampus so important? Some of you may know this, but it's the area of the brain that helps in consolidating memories. It also has an impact on the HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis, which is connected with mood and can in fact also help to moderate lower depression. So it's important, and it's a benefit of exercise many don't know, don't think about, don't talk about. Where did these guidelines of achieving and accumulating 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity come from? Well, in 2008, the United States Health and Human Services Task Force set about to examine 8,623 journal articles on exercise with a panel of experts, physicians, exercise physiologists, researchers, different scientists. And they came up with a summary. And that is indicated here in this graph. If you're interested in it, you can go to the website www.health.gov/PA guidelines. I'll give you the summary. X-axis, we have moderate to vigorous leisure time physical activity in hours per week. I was talking about 150 minutes. If you change that into hours, I know that you're going to come up with 2.5 hours. Being the guidelines. Y-axis is relative risk of all-cause mortality, death from all causes. We start at 1. So people who are accumulating, it looks like 20, 30 minutes per week, we're at 1 for relative risk of all-cause mortality. There's a sharp decline, a steep slope here, as you can see, and then it's still a pretty steep slope at 2.5 or 150 minutes, 2.5 hours. If you want more benefits, these guidelines recommend going up to 300 minutes. 300 minutes. Now you can see the slope is still declining when we get to 300 minutes or 5 hours. And beyond that, it seems to plateau. So those are the guidelines for moderate intensity physical activity and where they come from. I mentioned strength training. We lose muscle mass every decade after 30. You could lose between 3 to 5% of your muscle mass per decade after the age of 30. So if you're 50 and you haven't been strength training by now, you could have lost 10% of your muscle mass. In terms of comparing exercise to medications, there's been a lot of research on this. So for people who have coronary artery disease, much like my dad, if you've had a heart attack or you have atherosclerosis, when you look at exercise compared to multiple medications that are prescribed daily, in lifestyle medicine, we prescribe the 6 pillars. We prescribe exercise. So everything on this side of the graph means that there is benefit. So exercise has benefit, like the other medications for coronary artery disease, coronary heart disease. When you're looking at stroke patients, exercise does really well compared to the anticoagulants and antiplatelet medications, which are used in stroke survivors. For heart failure, exercise also does well, but diuretics, Lasix, and other medications that help with fluid buildup in the body, those do very well for heart failure. And then for prediabetes, exercise does really well, not quite as well as all the medications, but very well, as you can see. I want to bring it home to health and happiness. Not only will it help us improve our memory, help our bodies be healthy, it will also help us be more creative day in and day out. The now How is exercise going to help us now? Well, a Stanford study showed that if you compare walking for 20 minutes to sitting for 20 minutes, those that are in the walking group increase their divergent thinking by 60%. Divergent thinking, thinking out of the box, creative thinking by 60%. Many of us are doing walking meetings now. When I meet with patients, with clients, I walk with them. We walk for an hour. That's the research study that shows the 60% improvement in creative thinking. Now, all these pillars are interconnected. What about exercise and nutrition? The next pillar we'll talk about. Exercise reduces urges for sugary snacks and attenuates urges in response to the stress situation and the cue in overweight people. So those people that are able to take a walk, able to reach the 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity, often have less cravings, urges for those sugary snacks. My dad sure did, after he changed his diet and started doing his walks for his stress reduction. You may be asking what diet is best. This is an area of great interest every year. Seems that there's a new fad diet every year. A good colleague and friend of mine, Dr. David Katz, he was the head of prevention and preventive medicine at Yale for many years. He stepped down to start his own company, Diet ID, but he continues to review all the diets every 5 years. He's due for another review. Hopefully it'll come out this year. This, however, is still applicable today. He looks at the different types of diets: low carb, low fat, vegetarian, vegan, low glycemic, Mediterranean, a mixed balance or DASH diet, we sometimes call this, and the Paleolithic, maybe we call it Atkins. Some people may call it keto here. However, there can be a keto vegan diet. So let's look at the health benefits of these different diets. So for the low carb, the emphasis on restriction of refined starches and added sugars in particular. For the low fat, vegetarian or vegan, emphasis is on plant foods direct from nature and avoidance of harmful fats. Low glycemic, restriction of starches, added sugars, and high fiber intake is encouraged. The Mediterranean diet, foods direct from nature, mostly plants, emphasis on healthful oils, notably olive oil, the monounsaturated oil we know. Mixed balanced, minimization of highly processed energy-dense foods, and emphasis on wholesome foods in moderate quantities. Then the Paleolithic, minimization of processed foods, emphasis on natural plant foods and lean meats. So the question, what's in common? What's healthy about all these different diets? The compatible elements that we can take away. Limiting refined starches, limiting added sugars, limiting processed foods, limiting intake of certain fats like trans fats, emphasizing whole plant foods with or without lean meats, fish, poultry, seafood. Michael Pollan said famously, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Why this emphasis on plants? And in the definition of a lifestyle medicine from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine that I showed you on slide 2 of this presentation, there was an emphasis on whole foods. And when I asked you about nutrition and if you were consuming 5 servings or more of vegetables, there's a reason. There's a lot of research behind the vegetables and the fruits and the phytonutrients and the antioxidants that are in fact the medicine in our food. So we're going to look at 3 studies. A meta-analysis of cohort studies followed 469,551 participants. It's a large study, found that a higher intake of fruits and vegetables is associated with a reduced risk from cardiovascular disease, heart disease, our number 1 killer. So an average reduction in risk of 4% for each additional serving per day of fruit and vegetables. So I asked you if you're having 5 times 4, that would be a 20% risk reduction for heart disease. Nurses study compared with those in the lowest category of fruit and vegetable intake, so those less than 1.5 servings a day, compared to those who averaged 8 or more servings. That's what I try to get each day, 8 or more servings a day, were 30% less likely to have a heart attack or stroke, those consuming 8. We're striving for 5, but 8 would be great. Individuals who ate more than 5 servings of fruit and vegetables per day had roughly 20% lower risk of coronary heart disease, heart attack, and stroke, compared with individuals who ate less than 3 servings per day. So we do focus on healthy eating and healthy eating patterns, not a specific diet, right? I showed you various diets, but I wanted you to see the compatible elements. I will also mention the Harvard Healthy Plate here. If you're not familiar with it, think about a plate. Half of it is vegetables and fruit. 1/4 of it is a healthy whole grain like quinoa or brown rice. And then the last quarter is a healthy protein, predominantly plants, nuts, seeds, legumes, beans. All right. When we are stressed and when difficult things happen, and I shared with you how stress had an impact on my dad's diet. Diet patterns can change due to stress. If we don't understand the power of mindfulness and meditation, stress reduction. Stress can increase the desire for hyper-palatable foods. What's that? Those that have high sugar, salt, and fat. That's called a hyper-palatable. Processed foods, packaged foods are often this way. High cortisol levels may also be partly responsible. What is stress? Engineering term, pressure or tension exerted on a material object. A state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. That's our psychological stress. Not all stress is bad. Eustress is good. It's flow. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi talks about this. It's enough stress to get you going. So there was a deadline today. It wasn't show up any time in the morning and we'll start the program whenever. No, it was show up at 9:30. So you had to get yourself ready, log in at 9:30, and you'll join the program. A deadline for a paper that is due, a deadline at work, it helps you to get going and motivated and moving. Distress is when there's too much stress. We can't handle the task at hand and the stress continues for extended periods of time, and we can get into chronic stress, which can definitely have a negative impact on all parts of our body. Specifically, I'm going to talk about the hippocampus. So the exercise was able to increase the volume of our hippocampus. There's evidence that excessive stress and chronic stress can in fact cause damage to our hippocampus. So you spent a lot of time on mindfulness and stress reduction. It is a pillar in our lifestyle medicine practices, and we use evidence-based practices for lifestyle in all pillars, including this one. So I'm sharing with you common practices for stress reduction and the journal articles that support each one. So getting out in nature, forest bathing, exercising, mindfulness, a lot of literature on how mindfulness can reduce stress. Something I personally tried, mindfulness-based stress reduction created by John Kabat-Zinn here at UMass. He has courses for physicians to learn how to do mindfulness-based stress reduction for themselves so they can then teach it to their patients. And by the way, when I took this course, it changed my life. Made it a lot better, a lot more peaceful and balanced. Meditation itself, through neuroimaging, we can see how the brain changes. And you've heard about that in this conference and how helpful it is for our mind. Playing with pets releases oxytocin, which is a feel-good hormone. So just petting your pet, cat or dog, this can be a great form of stress reduction. Taking vacation actually is important so you can restore, reset, come back energized and engaged. Deep breaths. We took 3 to start this program. And deep breathing, as you know, helps turn on the parasympathetic system. Important. Music. This is the #1 stress reduction technique for medical students. They listen to music. Practicing yoga can also help us to reduce stress. I started this perhaps in 2005, and this also changed my life and my world. Laughing. This is one of my review articles in the American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine. And laughter itself can reduce our cortisol levels. can make us feel good and reduce stress. Expressive writing. A lot of physicians are starting to use this as well, especially during this time of COVID. Chewing gum. There's evidence that chewing gum can reduce stress. Here's an important one. Checking email less frequently. My mentor, Dr. Brooks, had told me one thing that stuck with me about 5 years ago. Well, no, he told me many things that stuck with me, but one thing in particular. Check your email at 9, at noon, and at 5. Don't be on it all day, all the time. Try to set a schedule and check it less frequently. Next pillar, sleep. Nighttime, nap time, and routine sleep. I mentioned we're striving for 7 to 9 hours. That's because the National Sleep Foundation has found that individuals 17 or older, and I'm guessing, although I can't see everyone, but I'm guessing I'm talking to an audience that's 17 or older, 7 to 9 hours. If you want a nap, napping is okay if you keep it to less than a half hour and you do it before 3 p.m. Having a routine is critical. Because when we're sleep deprived, not only does it impact every system of our body, it impacts our reaction time. This is really important day to day and in the now, especially if you're behind the wheel, driving while drowsy. Creates many accidents here in the US. There have been studies that compare levels of sleep deprivation with blood alcohol levels in terms of reaction time. So, in Australia, this study showed that being awake 18 hours, you have a reaction time similar to someone who has a blood alcohol level of 0.05. Being awake 24 hours, you have a reaction time similar to someone who has a blood alcohol level of 0.10. In the US, when I'm talking about blood alcohol concentration, 0.08 is considered legally drunk. So sleep impacts every system, impacts our stress, impacts our energy, impacts our relationships, and our reaction time. So try to keep your bedroom like a cave. Quiet, really dark, and cool. Cool, around 67 degrees Fahrenheit is the recommendation. Why? Because a drop in core body temperature is considered a signal for sleep. So we need a drop in core body temperature to fall asleep. Dark, because we don't want the blue wavelength light specifically that comes from our phone, our laptop, our iPad, the television, sometimes alarm clocks. So at least 2 hours before bed, these need to be put away. If you can't put them away and you're working, you can have goggles that block out the blue wavelength light. You can have apps, filters on your phone, your laptop that will block out the blue wavelength light. And the reason is blue wavelength light has an impact on our pineal gland, and it stops the release of melatonin, and melatonin is a signal for sleep. The other thing we have to think about is caffeine. Lots of people love it, coffee and tea. What we need to know is that caffeine binds to the same receptor as adenosine. Adenosine builds up over the course of the day, and it is a signal for sleep. Usually around 11 p.m., we have high levels of adenosine, and we get a signal for sleep. We go to sleep, the adenosine clears, we wake up in the morning with low levels of adenosine. Caffeine binds to the very same receptor, but it has the opposite effect. Adenosine helps us fall asleep. Obviously, caffeine revs us up. Some of you may be drinking it now because it's morning for you. And with this adrenaline, we can get a lot done, and it's very useful, except if it's 9:30 or 10 at night, like it is for me. The important thing to remember is caffeine has a half-life of 4 to 6 hours. So if you drink it at 3 p.m., half of it will be in your system at 9 p.m. People forget that. 3 p.m. is a natural lull in energy for all of us. So instead, go for a walk, take some deep breaths, maybe have a handful of nuts, talk to a friend, a charismatic adult, something that energizes you rather than the caffeine. And metabolism can vary with this, but you should know the average. So sleep insufficiency was associated with a significant increase in desire for weight gain promoting high-calorie food items following sleep loss, the magnitude of which was proportional to the subjective severity of sleep loss across participants, specifically volunteers who slept only 4 hours ate 300 extra calories compared to those who got 9 hours of rest. All these pillars are interconnected. Now let's talk about poor sleep and its impact on mood, outlook, productivity, creativity, sociability, relationships. One of our pillars, social connection, has a big impact when our mood and our outlook and our sociability are down. Relationships can suffer. And belonging and love needs are right here in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They're the third level up. Physiological needs, meaning water, food, then shelter. After that, we need belongingness and love in our lives. It's a critical piece of lifestyle medicine and health and happiness. In fact, people who have low quality and quantity of social ties can develop and have progression of cardiovascular disease, recurrent heart attack, atherosclerosis, buildup of cholesterol in the arteries, high blood pressure, cancer, delayed cancer recovery, and slower wound healing. We've known about this research for a very long time. This is a landmark study from 1979 that looks at different levels of social connection. Those with the least connections have the bar graphs that have that have horizontal stripes. The stripes are going horizontally. Those people have the least connections. So if we look at the x-axis here, we have different age groups. This is for men, here on the left graph. On the right graph, it's for women. Different age groups on the x-axis, 30 to 49, 50 to 59, 60 to 69. On the y-axis, we have percentage died from all causes. So in every age group, for men and for women, every age group, 30 to 49, 50 to 59, 60 to 69, those that had the highest percentage of death from all causes are those that have these vertical bars, these vertical lines. The ones with the vertical lines are those that have the least connections and the highest percentage of death from all cause. So we're striving for connection, and we're striving for high quality connections, deep connections. You know, high quality connections have greater emotional carrying capacity, the expression of more emotion, both positive and negative, and safety felt in doing so. That's a high quality connection. The ability to bounce back after setbacks. Relations that have generativity and openness to new ideas and influence, as well as its ability to deflect behaviors that will shut down generative processes. If you're interested in this work, I'm fascinated by it. Dr. Jane Dutton is the one really leading the way here, and I believe you can get this online for free, this chapter 17 in her book. It's The Power of High Quality Connections by Jane Dutton. Now let's get to our last pillar, really pretty straightforward one, substance use. We recommend that everyone quit smoking. In terms of alcohol, monitor alcohol. It's elimination, moderation, depending on who it is and what the circumstance. So alcohol's the topic of discussion. I told you that back in the 80s in the US, American Heart Association recommended 1 glass of wine. They recommended it for people to prevent heart attacks. Now it's different. American Heart Association says if you don't drink, don't start. If you do drink, limit yourself to 1 drink if you're a woman and 2 if you're a man. Now this is the big question. What's 1 drink? 1 drink is 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of distilled spirits. CDC agrees with the AHA, American Heart Association, now, which says if you do not drink, do not start. Interestingly, the U.S. Dietary Guidelines, they're due to come out in 2020, and there is a group recommending that men also limit themselves to 1 drink, and women both. Stay tuned and see what the United States Dietary Guidelines put out, but this could change to just 1 drink for men. If you're worried about cancer, it's no alcohol whatsoever, and you can find this in multiple journal articles, and check the American Cancer Association as well. It's important to be able to identify substance use disorder, loss of control, neglecting other activities, risk-taking, relationship issues, secrecy, changing appearance, family history, tolerance, withdrawal, continued use of the substance despite negative consequences, and getting help is important. Alcohol disrupts sleep. Many people don't realize this. They think that they're going to have a drink and then they're going to fall asleep. Well, often that does happen, but what then happens is REM sleep is disrupted. Many people wake up in the middle of the night and they can't get back to sleep, or they'll just wake up briefly, but that will disrupt REM sleep. We need solid, sound sleep for health and happiness. If you think someone has a problem, I'm showing you some options, or if you feel you may have a problem, some websites, www.asam.org, www.drugabuse.gov. We have local medical societies here in the US that can provide help. I'm in Massachusetts, I'm in Boston here at Harvard, and Mass Medical Society is the one that is the go-to here, and the website is www.massmed.org if you wanted to look at that for yourself or colleagues. It's really important that we as lifestyle medicine practitioners practice what we preach. I know this very well because I did a survey research study back in 1998. It was published in 2000. We looked at exercise habits for physicians, and we wondered if there was a relationship between the exercise habits of physicians and their practices in counseling on exercise. So in other words, do physicians preach what they practice? And what we found out was, yes, physicians that do aerobic exercise counsel on it. Physicians that do strength training counsel on it. If they don't do strength training, they don't counsel on it. If they don't do aerobic training, they don't counsel on it. So part of being a lifestyle medicine practitioner, physician, is walking the talk. So I'm delighted to have shared part of this lifestyle medicine journey with you. I hope that you've learned some important research that you'll carry with you, and maybe some tips and tricks and tools that you'll be able to utilize, like perhaps an exercise ball for your chair at work. And I'd love to stay connected. I do have a website a colleague of mine just created and updated for me, bethfratesmd.com. You can check that out. And as far as social media, the thing I'm most active on is Twitter at Beth Frates MD. Thank you so much for your time.